Hey kids, it's Jurassic James. I'm Jurassic Explain. So looking at Kaprosuchus. So first and foremost, we'll point out. Let's see. The name Kaprosuchus means boar, croc. So if you take a wild boar, take a crocodile, you put it in an evolutionary blender, and you get this word out right here. So what's going on with this animal is really simple. It's the newest. It's a really interesting creature from North Africa, late Cretaceous period, right at the beginning of the late Cretaceous period. Same rules apply with our older to newer models. This one has actually been pre-opened because I shot a video and I was sick and I was sniffing the whole time. And I was like, I can't use this. Believe it or not, what I give you is the best because I cut out a lot of stuff and I already opened it. But we'll pretend. I don't know. So Kaprosuchus was discovered in North Africa. And here's the thing. This animal is known from a skull, mainly just one skull, the holotype. And so the body, of course, is up for speculation. I will point out one thing with this guy. The number, you see it in pop culture, so I've seen it in the media. There's 3 toys of it, so that tells you something, right? And so the main thing to point out with this is the 2010 Safari, my first one actually. And so, again, the body's entirely speculation, but based on the family tree of looking at physical morphologies of shape, we look at other croc things and say it's closest to this group here. Now, what's really fun about this too, and I'll put a link below to my crocodile page, or Archosaur morph page, technically. And so the idea is that everything in the body is speculation, but again, I never really talk about this very much, but crocs have a huge history. Yes, the Triassic is known as the age of crocs, but they didn't just go away when the Jurassic began. They became, well, first of all, we got the crocs we know today, trying to show them the Jurassic, but also they've had this kind of parallel evolution of dinosaurs. And when dinosaurs are wiped out, a lot of croc things, what we would consider crocs today, but people like me who study this in more detail and know that they're different branches, they still were dominant predators, or at least influential predators in their environments moving forward into the Cenozoic. So this guy here, I will give you the general rule. If you don't know this, a crocodile, modern alligators and crocs, have 5 fingers and 4 toes. This toy has 5 fingers and 4 toes. I will point out one thing though, that it has and the toy is correct in that. I mean, if, again, we don't have the body, but if all the trends continue, that makes sense. What's neat about this is the first 3 claws, fingers have claws on them, and the last 2 do not, which is something we see in a lot of dinosaur groups because they have the claws on the 3 fingers. But I'm not sure, again, with the croc, if that's a trend or anything, but that's the thing that the toys seem to do. The thing you notice most about this figure is it's upright, and again, by definition, these crocodile-like animals, they cannot walk like a dinosaur, but they still kind of walk like upwards. And it is often depicted as being terrestrial, and Paul Sereno was a part of the team who wrote about this. And so the idea is that was it a amphibious, like what? Okay, let me explain that first. Amphibious. So there's 2 terms, amphibian and amphibious. Amphibian essentially means you are, today for the most part, a frog or salamander. And these animals are amphibians, and there's one other group that's really major called Caecilians. They're like giant worms, but they're not, but they actually are amphibians. They just have no limbs. And if you were to hold one, which I have before, you can feel the bones inside and everything. It's just that it looks like a worm. So those are amphibians. So if you study herpetology, that's the study of crawling things. That includes amphibians and reptiles. And so a long time ago, the understanding of how these things are related to each other was not so clear. And to give you an example of this, we now understand the difference between amphibian, the class, and reptilia. Now within reptilia, you have your crocodiles, the archosauromorphs, your snakes and lizards basically here, which are called squamata, which include mosasaurs, and then your turtles, who are weirdos from this weird outbranch that we're trying to figure out in paleontology. So again, if you were an early zoologist trying to understand how these animals work, you're like, these are all things that are crawling around. They are not mammals or birds. They're not flying around or warm-blooded, or, you know. And so the idea here is that they're all the crawling things. It's herpetology. But now we know, again, there are amphibians and there's reptiles. Within reptile, fun fact, you would look at a lizard like the Gila monster and a crocodile or a gharial here and say, oh, those are more physically related because they have similar limbs. No, snakes and lizards were close related because snakes, we know, had legs at one point and they've lost them in evolutionary line. By the Jurassic, we have snakes with legs. By early Cretaceous, there's a very famous snake found in Israel that has like 2 flippers on the back of his legs. And by early Cretaceous, we have full legless snakes, basically, right? And so it's interesting, though, that looking at these guys in general, we have a crocodile here, an alligator. They're both from Safari, and this is a gharial from Shite. Agara from India. They have these really narrow snouts and kind of bulbous tip. Those guys are actually mainly fish eaters. And so looking at these, you would think these are all related. But recent understandings of evolutionary biology show that the archosaurs, the crocodile type, are closer to birds kind of than they are to these guys here. So I understand it's weird for a person who doesn't do this every day, but that's what we're looking at as far as relationships and how they evolve over time. Now, that being said, our Kaprosuchus is clearly, when I say amphibious, it's not a salamander or a frog. It's living in water. Basically, like the hippo or crocodiles are mainly in water. There were some crocs during the Cretaceous, particularly, that were terrestrial. They lived on land more, right? And so the question is, which one does this guy do? Now, for a modern crocodile alligator, you notice that the skull, the eyes are kind of higher up on the head. And so the idea is that when this toy is clearly on land, but if they're in the water, their eyes will essentially poke out of the water, so the prey cannot see them. They can hide very well. Well, with Kaprosuchus, he has these two horns here that are very large, and so if the eyes are sticking out of the water, those horns stick out too. Now, does that mean it would not be able to hide as well? No, I mean it still would hide, but it makes it more easy to be visible. I've been to Bastrop State Park in South Texas or south of Houston, and there's gators in the water, and you'll see a few of them, but there's more to them than meets your eye. The idea is that there are a lot of them there. In some of them, is that a log, is that a floating stick, or is it an actual alligator? It's hard to tell. So with this guy, it will be harder to tell because of these larger structures here. The second thing to point out with this animal that makes it kind of stand out, or makes it really popular, are the teeth. And so there's these large, almost not saber, they're thin, but they're large sets of teeth. When it closes his mouth, it has these kind of interlocking, larger, smaller, which is why the capro, the boar, was put in this name. And so, and of course, Suchus means croc, basically, because that's the lineage it's derived from. And so this animal is really neat in its own right. So the safari one's really good too. There is one for Papo, and I have it here. And again, remember, Papo does not have the name on the animal. You must kind of know what it is. But it has, again, the 5 fingers, 4 toes, so we're keeping that in line. All the armor here. Again, crocs are, by average standards, people who don't understand zoology, like, they all kind of look alike. There are very clear differences between the different croc groups. But overall, this body plan wouldn't be horrifically wrong. You see what I mean? Well, the closest relative to this guy is, let's see, and well, that's a toy of it, is if you ride the safari tubes, where is her name? It is really tiny. Montoneolosuchus. So this guy is a South American one. So these guys are more terrestrial, and so that's the lineage they're in. Because Neosuchus Suchids are the guys who include the American alligator, the gharial, the crocodile, saltwater crocodile. We also have Sarcosuchus, which is closer to, so it's a sense of lineages. There's modern crocs, and Sarcosuchus and Dinosuchus are closer to those guys than they are to this group. So they're called Neosuchus, these are called Notosuchus, in a sense. And again, if you want to see more on that more visually and more outline, I have a classification on my website where I show you different groups, basically. So let's put these guys down and get to finishing the review of the Papo figure. So overall, if you've ever been around an alligator or handled an alligator, this looks just like a crocodile. Like the way the scales have different patterns. There's the scutes or osteoderms on the back. So if you don't know, I always say to kids, when you're out hunting crocodiles and you shoot it in the back and it just ricochets off, there's bony plates in the skin called osteoderms. Right? And so those scutes there are where the bullet hits that, right? And so this guy's mouth only opens like this. And just a fun fact, if you don't know this, the muscles in the jaw of a crocodile, evolutionarily speaking, all crocs, all modern crocs, let's say it that way, have evolved to bite really fast. They're trying to, they're not, they're fast in short spurts, but they're not going to like chase their prey down. So the idea is it's really about snapping really hard and locking on the prey. Well, the idea is that the muscles have evolved and been selected for to be very strong for closing their mouths. They don't have the same muscles to open their mouth. So you'll see people on TV like sitting on a gator's back and then like holding the mouth shut with bare hands because the jaws, there's different jaws to close the jaw than there are to open a jaw. And once they close the jaw, way stronger. And so it's kind of weird. I mean, I understand kind of why, but the way that the mouth open like this is kind of hinging. But overall, again, you have your horns here, your number of toes, everything's pretty much what it is. I like that the tail's really fat, and that's just not for Kaprosuchus, but just in crocs in general, is that when you see a crocodile and alligator like launch out of the water, that is not their feet. They're not pushing out of the water. That is the huge muscles in their tails that are like whipping, well not whipping, but they are flexing, I guess, and the animal's being launched upwards, right? And so, of course, the end story here with this guy is the one from Jurassic World. I opened it in the previous video shooting, and it didn't look too well. So here we are. And so I will pretend for you because I know many of you have told me you enjoy this process. So here are the official pictures of Jurassic James, and here's the thing, and I uncease. We go snip, 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 snip. Oh, look at that, open. And so anyway, not to be picturizing, I like that you guys like that part of the video. And so here's a figure from Jurassic World, and its thing is if you take it and you push down, it opens its jaw, because when you're a predatory croc thing, you do that. And so what's really neat about this, or annoying about this first, is that it has 4 fingers and 4 toes. So the toes are right, allegedly. Fingers are wrong, but they don't consult anybody. The DNA information is right here. So there's that. That's really important to kids. Now, obviously, the teeth are exaggerated. So, I mean, this is easy to, the skulls, don't use Google the skull to see the image of it. These are way bigger than that. But of course, Jurassic Park dinosaurs, Jurassic World dinosaurs, are always bigger, have more spines, more horns, whatever. They have more plates and stuff. But they also give the osteoderms in the back. The tail a little short, but again, that's usually because of packaging. I mentioned before in many videos that they make the tail smaller to fit in the package for shipping and all that. But again, so these guys do that. So if you're looking for a scientific model, I mean, honestly, I can't. I personally lean towards this one, and it's like it's not a science thing; it's a personal preference. This one looks so much like a modern crocodile, an alligator, and so to me, the fact that Notosuchus is a slightly different. Now, again, could be entirely wrong. We don't have the body, so we can't say. But my idea is that this looks so much like a modern croc as far as the skin on the animal, the way it appears. That looks too much on one side. This guy looks a little bit more alien to me. So it makes more sense why the Neosuchus, which are the crocs we know, like the other modern guys, this looks more like them. And Notosuchus are a little bit different. They're a little bit their own branching. So that's why we kind of lean toward this one for like a weird personal preference. I think they're both amazing. And of course, if you're a child who likes these figures, here's a nice one too. Look at that. They have little just armor scoots back there. That's something that's neat. We do see something, not really, no, am I misremembering something? They all kind of have a little bit of a ridge of plates here. I have seen that on real crocs. Yeah, when I do talks with the crocodile skins, they have like those little kind of, it reminds me of when the biker jackets, little tassels on the end. So like there's these little bitty kind of like scaly bits right here. That's been seen in modern alligators and crocs. Anyway, so that's Kaprosuchus in a nutshell, this animal. So it's a carnivore. Its lifestyle. So the question was, does it live on land or in the water? And it has suggestions of both. And what I mean by that is, again, I mentioned the eyes earlier. So the eyes stick up a lot. And so that's a trait you really wouldn't associate with being in the water because you're trying to hide really well. But crocodiles that are in the water have usually flatter heads. And Kaprosuchus has more of a taller skull. And so that's something you see in the taller skulls you see on more terrestrial crocs. So it has traits from both sides. And so the official answer I think Dr. Paul Serino gave, was that they were terrestrial, which is why we see them in all those, there's like a video game and then other things too. But they're not saying it wouldn't go in the water. It's not like, it's not afraid of water. It's just that it can do both, most likely. And so that, until we find a body, we have no idea, right? It's like a detective case. Like, until we find a body, we don't know who did it. So, other than that, we're looking at its environment. So it's in late Cretaceous, North Africa. So who's known from that area? I don't know. Spinosaurus. So here's the Jurassic World Spinosaurus, those long, luscious legs. Who's that Spino? Who's that Spino? Lovely Spino. Where's the thing that does the thing? Oh, it's just here, right. Yeah. And so, of course, there's the new version of Spinosaurus from Papo that has the, the shorter legs. And so, this guy's not really balancing that well. Let's see. He's not balancing that well. Well, this is awful. Okay, this is fun. I don't play with my toys. I haven't teaching with them, so it's weird that the joints get loose because anyway. So that's so basically looking at like these two guys, and here is their I'll do the Jurassic World version I guess here, and so here is their contemporary or ecology mate, and here's the Jurassic Park one, and then we have an animal called Dinosaur who was grossly underappreciated. If you've heard of the Giganotosaurus, the Giganotosaurus in Jurassic World Dominion, that is from South America. His African cousin is called Carcharodontosaurus. That's the family name, actually. And so they made one for Jurassic World, but in my opinion, and I did a video on this a long time ago, a couple years ago, But the toy itself, it's way too small to me, given the size of the. It's one of the top 5 like predators in size, we believe. So, and of course, the size model would be this 2014. Oh, there it is. Okay, Dinosaur Company. Collect A. So this is like one of the bigger ones on display, other than the ones from the company, PNSO. And so this is another contemporary of this time. Uh, Not quite found in the ecology, but possibly there. Oranosaurus. Oranosaurus is known from the early Cretaceous of Africa with Fukumimus and Niger. I've done it, shown together on videos before. There are some suggestions in some papers that Oranosaurus lived into the late Cretaceous period, the early Cretaceous. So that would put this guy kind of in the same area here. And there's the Jurassic World one there. And then this is a Paralotitan, which is found with Spinosaurus. In the site, or the formation Kaprosuchus is found in, they have another one called Egyptosaurus, which is another giant titanosaur. So it would just be big, giant, big boy like that. And finally we have the little guy here. This is a 2010 Collect A Rugops. And here's the Jurassic World version of it. I did actually make a video about this one. And I went over Rugops, but then the video was just awful, so I just deleted it. I haven't went back to it. It has 2 fingers. It's not a Belosaur. It should have 4 fingers. Not minimum. 4 fingers, period. And it's just the ratty tail. I am not happy with this one. Anyway, so these guys would be contemporaries in North Africa, like Cretaceous, to Kaprosuchus. So that's his environment. So again, I just show you the animal, its story, who it's related to, and of course, who it lives with, basically. And so that's in a nutshell Kaprosuchus' story. I will tell you that one of the viewers, a man named Jim Connor, who I reference sometimes, gave me a new Albertosaurus figure from PNSO. And I've already done Albertosaurus once, the actual toy review, but I have this one and another one already. So I'm probably going to do a part 2 at some point, because we got to go over the update and show you a more scientific accurate version of the animal. They're all so much fun to balance, aren't they? So, with that being said, I'm going to put that there and put you here. That is Kaprosuchus. So get yours today. Again, they're all pretty cool figures. This one, of course, is exaggerated. Oh my goodness, I just realized something. It is missing the horns behind his head. That is because when they have a skull, that is a very, very important feature that they all seem to have. And so this one lacks that. That's a mark on you, or a pox on you, Hasbro. But again, still a great figure. Still think it's really cool looking. But do know it's missing that very important feature. Or maybe, throwing it out there, last idea. There's a term called sexual dimorphism. So basically telling if the boy or girl, the male crocs usually have bigger horns behind their heads. And so maybe, and this is speculation, maybe the skull they found was a male. And this one is a female. Maybe that could be a thing. I don't know. Just, it's your choice, your thing, do your story. With that being said, I'll see you guys later, next week. I've been shooting videos. I'm going to have some up for like the next 5 weeks consistently, because there's more figures out, new waves will come out. So with that being said, I'll see you later, and thank you for tuning in.